He Xinjiu had the intention to bring Di Biming to hide for a while, but after scanning the surroundings, she could not find a suitable place to hide. In a moment, hundreds of people had arrived in front of them. The leader of the group looked at Yun Chujiu and Di Biming suspiciously. He was puzzled. These two people's ages did not match the person the pavilion master was looking for. Could it be that the spirit butterfly had made a mistake? That person released a nearly transparent spirit butterfly from the spirit beast bag. The spirit butterfly's antennae trembled. It was obvious that they were the people the pavilion master was looking for. Forget it. Regardless of whether it was true or not, he would rather kill 1,000 than let one go. He had to catch them first. Di Biming's heart sank when he saw the spirit butterfly in that person's hand. No wonder these people chased after him. Lan Luochen must have scattered some powder made from the butterfly eggs on little Jiu's body. That was why the mother butterfly had tracked him here. The powder made from the 1,000-mile-long tracking butterfly eggs was very overbearing. Once it was contaminated, even if one used a cleaning spell, it would not be able to remove the unique smell. However, this 1,000-mile-long tracking butterfly was very rare. He did not expect Lan Luochen to have such an item. He had been careless. The leader did not say much. He waved his hand and said, "Capture them and bring them back to the pavilion master for punishment." Although He Xinjiu did not know whether those people knew their identities or not, she knew that if she fell into their hands, she would be doomed. She pointed at the leader and said in a clear voice, "Hold on. Don't you think it's a bit shameless for you to make things difficult for us two half-grown children? If you are a man, fight me one-on-one." The leader sensed his subordinate's mocking gaze and sneered, "Little girl, since you're asking for it, I'll grant you your wish." Hall Master. I didn't expect you to be a Hall Master. What's your name? He Xinjiu asked with a smile. The leader ignored He Xinjiu's words and formed a seal with his hands. Several wind blades flew toward He Xinjiu with a whistling sound. He Xinjiu dodged in a hurry and complained in her heart. The spiritual power of this bullshit Hall Master was much higher than the 5 mountain bandits combined. She was afraid that she would really die today. A fierce look flashed in He Xinjiu's eyes. She could only capture this Hall Master as a hostage and have a chance of survival. Otherwise, there was really no way to survive. When He Xinjiu thought of this, she had Xiao Hanio curse him and had Meng Yanshou weave a dream for him. This was a two-pronged attack so that she could hit him in one strike. As expected, although the Hall Master's spiritual power was not low, he was still hit. He first staggered, then his spiritual sense went into a trance. When he woke up, he was already forced to his neck by Yun Chujiu with a large kitchen knife. "You guys get out of the way, or I'll kill him," He Xinjiu said fiercely. The people of the 9 pavilions thought that their Hall Master wouldn't effortlessly take down that little girl, so they all relaxed and watched the show. Who would have thought that their Hall Master would be controlled by that little girl in a daze? Was their Hall Master sleepwalking? If they had known that their Hall Master would be defeated, they would have taken that kid as a hostage. Now, they were suddenly in a passive position. The people of the 9 pavilions looked at each other. What should they do now? The Hall Master had already given his life. If they couldn't bring the people back, he would take their lives. Although they weren't sure if these two were the people the Hall Master was looking for, since they smelled of spirit butterfly powder. Then it had to do with those two. While everyone was hesitating, a hawk-nosed man said viciously, "Pavilion Master's orders cannot be disobeyed. As for Pavilion Master Yin, just treat it as sacrificing for our 9 pavilions. Pavilion Master has ordered that if the women want to live, the men shall be killed without exception. Go." The one who spoke was Vice Pavilion Master Meng. He had originally wanted to replace him. Now was such a good opportunity, so he naturally would not let it go. The guards of the 9 pavilions immediately ignored the life and death of the Hall Master who was held hostage by Yun Chujiu. They immediately narrowed the encirclement and attacked D-Biming with their spiritual power like a tidal wave. He Xinjia's head buzzed. She did not have time to think and directly used the Hall Master as a meat shield in front of D-Biming. Then, she asked the little bastard to summon the big bastard to protect D-Biming inside. She hurriedly raised her spiritual energy shield and released De Hua, 10,000-year-old single pig, I can only rely on you now. De Hua instantly turned black. Her huge body didn't pounce on the people from the 9 pavilions. Instead, she stood in front of D-Biming and Yun Chuzhou, blocking the continuous spiritual energy attacks for them. Fortunately, Tower Master Luochen had ordered to capture Yun Chuzhou alive, so those people didn't attack Yun Chuzhou with all their strength. Otherwise, both Yun Chuzhou and D-Biming would have been dead long ago. He Xinjiu hurriedly summoned 5 puppets and the silly cuties. This guy cursed in his heart. It was forbidden to fly here. Otherwise, she would have asked the shadow-skimming giant winged bird to come out and help. What bad luck! The people of the 9 pavilions were really shocked by De Hua, the puppets, and the silly cuties. What the hell were these things? At first, they did not take it to heart and suffered a little loss. However, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. First, the silly cuties were injured one after another, and then the big turtle shell protecting D-Biming was split into 2 halves. Vice Hall Master Meng sneered, little girl, although you have some skills, you are not our match at all. Hall Master does not want to take your life, so you should obediently surrender to avoid suffering. He Xinjiu ignored him and let the silly girls protect D-Biming. Then, she threw the talismans and chili noodles in her hands at the people of the 9 pavilions as if they were free. The people from the 9 pavilions were caught off guard at the beginning. They choked until tears flowed down their faces. Many people were injured by the talismans. But very soon, the people from the 9 pavilions used their spiritual energy to break her chili noodles. Although He Xinjiu had many talismans, their quality was not high. Therefore, they were of limited use to the people from the 9 pavilions. The people from the 9 pavilions once again narrowed the encirclement. The veins on D-Biming's forehead were bulging, but he did not have enough strength left. There was a gap between the use of secret arts. He could not help at all now. It was really detestable. The injuries of the dumb Meng Meng were getting more and more serious. Moreover, the nirvana fire of Xiao Hanio had already been used up. The spiritual power of the nightmare beast had also been exhausted. Many of Xiao Moga's mycelium had also been broken. He Xinjiu had no choice but to put away Meng Yanshou. She gritted her teeth and was about to use the kitchen knife to force her neck to make way for those people when the 5 puppets turned to look at her. He Xinjia's heart inexplicably trembled. What were they going to do? Puppet number 1, puppet number 2, and puppet number 3 suddenly rushed into the crowd in front of them, and then a loud explosion sounded. Puppet number 4 and puppet number 5 carried Yun Chuzhou and D-Biming and rushed out of the crowd in the chaos. He Xinjia's spiritual sense was stifled. She knew that puppet number 1, puppet number 2, and puppet number 3 were all dead. They were completely dead. They used self-destruction to fight for her chance to live. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Yun Chuzhia's eyes were filled with boiling hot tears. Although these puppets were separated from her soul consciousness, they already had a preliminary intelligence. In a sense, they were already a new life. Yun Chuzhia's chest was filled with hatred. She hated Lan Luchen's ruthlessness and her own weakness. However, she did not hate fate. She firmly believed that as long as she had a strong heart, as long as she worked hard enough, she would be able to overcome all difficulties, including the trials of fate. He Xinjiu wiped her tears. She would not let puppet number 1, puppet number 2, and puppet number 3 die in vain. She would definitely take revenge. Puppet number 4 and puppet number 5 were very fast. They carried Yun Chujio and Di Baiming and ran into the depths of the valley. The people from the 9-layered pavilion did not catch up. As puppet number 1, puppet number 2, and puppet number 3 were caused by 1,000-year-old black iron, the power of the self-explosion was extremely great. More than half of the people from the 9-layered pavilion were killed and injured. Even Deputy Hall Master Meng suffered serious internal injuries. Tower Master Luochen had already returned to the 9 pavilions. After receiving the voice transmission talisman from Deputy Hall Master Meng, he was certain that the young man and woman were Di Baiming and Yun Chujio. His expression was extremely gloomy. Only little Jiu could create puppets with intelligence. Those two must be Di Baiming and little Jiu. However, why did they suddenly become smaller? If it was not because he could not get away, he would definitely go personally. It was not a big deal if he did not bring little Jiu over. After all, he was still young. Rashly bringing little Jiu back to the 9 pavilions might not be good for her. However, that Di Baiming must die. Whether it was because of little Jiu or other reasons, this person couldn't live. He was already so powerful now. In time, he would definitely become a thorn in his side. Thinking of this, Tower Master Luochen gathered thousands of people around and gave them their lives. They must kill Di Baiming. Although the 2 puppets had some intelligence, it was limited after all. They ran aimlessly and only knew to keep running forward. He Xinjiu let the puppets put her down after a while and added some supreme-grade spirit stones into their puppet plates. Just when she was about to discuss the next step with Di Baiming, she suddenly realized that Di Baiming's face was as pale as a sheet. Only then did she realize that Di Baiming's back was full of blood. This is, Yun Chujio's words stopped abruptly because she remembered that during the fight, Di Baiming had once pulled her back. At that time, she did not pay too much attention to it. It was probably that time that Di Baiming blocked the spiritual attack for her, this idiot. Yun Chujio cursed while feeding Di Baiming the pill to stop the bleeding. She cursed in her heart. The pretty boy had vomited blood and was injured these days. He was really unlucky. Although he had taken the pill, Di Baiming's face was still very pale. Yun Chujio's heart tightened. Did the cold poison attack you, or was it the after-effects of using the secret art? Di Baiming said casually, the latter. He Xinjiu was so angry that she was twitching. You know the consequences of using the secret technique are so severe, yet you still use it? If you tell me the consequences are so severe, I will think of another way to leave Chaotian's sect. Di Baiming glanced at her. Another way? What other way can you think of? Do you still expect Lan Luochen to save you? Yun Chujio heard Di Baiming mention Lan Luochen and hatred appeared on her face. Don't mention that ingrate. I thought he was a good friend. I didn't expect him to be such a heartless person. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Di Baiming pursed his lips and did not reply. He had warned her before that Lan Luochen was not easy to get along with. Now, she finally believed him. Yun Chujio cursed for a while and then said, those people will definitely not let this go. Let's hurry up and leave this place. Yun Chujio summoned puppet number 4 and let it carry Di Baiming and follow behind her. When the sky was getting brighter, she saw the entrance of the valley from afar. Yun Chujio could not help but feel happy. As long as she was out of the valley, she could use her flying spirit tool. Moreover, she could also summon the shadow-skimming giant winged bird. Although the spiritual power of these demonic birds was not as high as that of the people from the 9 pavilions, they could still act as a hindrance in the air. The smile on Yun Chujio's face soon disappeared because many people from the 9 pavilions suddenly appeared at the entrance of the valley. At a glance, there were hundreds of them. Yun Chujio was about to return to the valley when Vice Hall Master Meng caught up with her with hundreds of people. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed with determination as she placed the large kitchen knife on her neck. She said coldly, let us out immediately, or I will commit suicide. Di Biming glanced at her. He knew this fellow too well. He knew that she was trying to scare him, so he did not say anything. The people of the 9 pavilions did not know this fellow's character. They thought that she was really going to commit suicide, so they immediately became numb. The pavilion master had specially emphasized that they had to protect this little girl's life. It was best that she did not suffer any injuries. What should they do now? Deputy Pavilion Master Meng had no choice but to take out Tower Master Luchen's voice transmission talisman. However, he realized that the voice transmission talisman could not be sent out. He was so anxious that he gritted his teeth. This was going to kill him. He thought for a moment. Xing Yu had always been by the Tower Master's side. Coincidentally, when he arrived, Xing Yu had given him her voice transmission talisman, saying that he could contact her if there was an urgent matter. Thus, Deputy Hall Master Meng gave Xing Yu a voice transmission talisman and briefly explained what had happened. Very soon, Xing Yu's voice transmission talisman began to tremble. Deputy Hall Master Meng, there is no way to use the talisman where the Tower Master is. Before he left, he had instructed that if that Lin Chu Chu is really stubborn, there is no need to care about her life or death. We can just kill her together. Although Deputy Hall Master Meng was a little suspicious after hearing Xing Yu's words, he thought that although Xing Yu was a maid, her position in the 9 pavilions was extraordinary. Since she said so, it should be the Hall Master's intention. Speaking of which, that little girl's looks were average, and her origin was unknown. Killing her was not a big deal. Thinking of this, Deputy Hall Master Meng sneered at Yun Chuzhou. Our Hall Master said that if you're sensible, well, spare your life. Since you're so stubborn, well, just kill you. If you kill yourself, it will save us a lot of trouble. Yun Chuzhou, fuck, this is awkward. She thought that she could use suicide as a threat. After a long time, people were waiting for her to die. It was useless to say anything now. This guy would not really kill himself. The only thing he could count on now was the Great Void Mirror, but there was still no movement. Deputy Hall Master Meng did not have the patience to stare at Yun Chuzhou. With a wave of his hand, everyone charged towards Di Biming and Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou had no choice but to release De Hua and the dumb-witted children. After a few hours of rest, the dumb-witted children had already recovered a little. They used all their strength to resist the endless spiritual attacks. However, this was just like the small candle and the sun. A weak force could not be compared to the strength of nearly 1,000 people from the 9 pavilions. In the blink of an eye, the dumb-witted children were heavily injured. De Hua, who had always been successful, could not gain any advantage at all. She could not even hold on for more than 10 breaths before she was shattered. Yun Chuzhou could only release De Hua continuously. Her spiritual power was quickly depleted. Yun Chuzhou threw out all the talismans and things that could be used in her storage ring. However, in the eyes of the thousands of people from the 9 pavilions, these things were just like child's play. There was no way to harm them at all. Compared to Di Biming, Yun Chuzhou's condition was better. After all, she did not have an old illness. Di Biming had already lost his body due to using a secret technique. Furthermore, he was severely injured previously. Moreover, he could not use his spiritual power rashly. Hence, his white clothes were dyed red very quickly. Di Biming looked at Yun Chuzhou, who was struggling. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. He took out a small piece of bone from the storage ring and dripped his blood on it. The small piece of bone turned into an afterimage and entered between Di Biming's brows. Di Biming's pale face instantly faded and his black hair turned as white as snow. With a wave of his hand, a huge ice dragon pounced towards the people from the 9 pavilions. The ice dragon seemed to have entered an uninhabited land. It was as though it was slaughtering cows and dogs. The screams of the people from the 9 pavilions rose and fell. Di Biming's aura was as cold as 10,000-year-old ice, and his eyes were bone-chilling, full of killing intent. Vice Hall Master Meng was greatly shocked. He had heard from his fellow disciples of Chao Tian's sect that this man was very powerful, and he had thought that it was an exaggeration. But now, he could see that this man was a mortal killer. Seeing the people around him dying one after another, he couldn't help but feel his legs go weak. He gritted his teeth and ran away. Pan DN0VE1CM. When the people from the 9 pavilions saw that the leader had left, they naturally wouldn't be foolish enough to wait here for death. Hence, they also followed Vice Hall Master Meng and ran away. Yun Chuzhou didn't have the mood to bother with Vice Hall Master Meng and the others. Her heart was in her throat. She knew that Di Biming had used another secret art, and it was even forcefully used. She didn't dare to imagine the consequences. Just as she was about to ask Di Biming, she saw Di Biming spit out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were tightly shut as he fell to the ground. Yun Chuzhou quickly went forward to catch him. She cut a wound on her arm and dripped the blood into Di Biming's mouth. However, Di Biming had already lost consciousness. Blood dripped down from the corner of his mouth. Yun Chuzhou simply sucked a mouthful of her own blood and kissed Di Biming's lips, feeding the blood bit by bit. Only when Di Biming's pulse became slightly stronger did Yun Chuzhou let puppet number 4 carry Di Biming out of the valley. Yun Chuzhou summoned her flying spirit tool and sped away. 3 days passed in a row. Yun Chuzhou fed Di Biming her own blood every day. Di Biming still did not wake up, but fortunately, his pulse became stronger and stronger. Finally, on the morning of the 4th day, Di Biming opened his eyes. He saw Yun Chuzhou kneeling beside his bed. There were still tears at the corner of her eyes. He could not help but feel suffocated. In an instant, he felt pain in his limbs and bones. He knew that the seal of 7 emotions and 6 desires had loosened again. He could only calm himself down and sigh silently in his heart. He had used the secret technique twice in a row, especially the last time. It was completely forced. As a result, his body had suffered too much damage. He could only find a few precious herbs to recover. Otherwise, he would not be able to recover for a while. Yun Chuzhou, who was sleeping, felt the movement. She raised her head and saw that Di Biming had woken up. She was overjoyed. "Prince Charming, you're awake. Are you better?" Di Biming hummed, "If I forcefully use my secret technique, I'm afraid I won't be able to recover for a while." However, due to the restrictions of the Tian Dao, the spiritual power of the people from the northern continent will be greatly reduced when they reach the southern continent. So, as long as we hurry back to the southern continent, we will be able to get out of this crisis. Yun Chuzhou nodded. As long as the gigolo was well, it was better than anything else. Di Biming suddenly remembered something. His face changed. Those people should still have the 1,000-mile tracking butterfly. In order to prevent them from catching up, you should quickly take a bath with the hot water added with 7-leaf rosemary. Then, burn all the shoes and clothes we were wearing before. Let's change to another flying spirit tool. Yun Chuzhou did not dare to be negligent. She immediately followed Di Biming's instructions and took a shower. Then, she changed to another flying spirit tool and changed the direction, taking a detour to the southern continent. After she was done with all of this, He Xingjia's stomach began to growl. She had been worried about Di Biming's injuries for the past few days. Now that Di Biming had finally woken up, she felt a little hungry. To be exact, she was very hungry. It was only then that she remembered that she had not eaten anything for the past 3 days. She first ate a bun as a cushion, then took out a bowl of porridge and fed it to Di Biming with a spoon. She did not like the fact that her wide sleeves were in the way, so she rolled up her sleeves. When Di Biming opened his mouth to drink the porridge, he saw that Yun Chuzhia's arms were filled with wounds of all sizes. Some were deep while others were shallow. He also saw that Yun Chuzhia's face was clearly pale. He immediately understood the reason for the matter. The pain that overflowed from the bottom of his heart made him ignore the chill that came from his limbs and bones. He used his hand to gently caress the wounds of various sizes and said hoarsely, "Don't be so stupid next time. I won't die." Yun Chujio quickly put down her sleeves and said casually, "These were all cut by the wind blades during the battle. Hurry up and drink the porridge." Di Biming reached out and held Yun Chujio's left hand. He looked straight at her and said word by word, "I won't die. Remember this sentence." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and did not take it to heart. She said perfunctorily, okay, I understand. You won't die. Just look at your hair and you'll know that you're immortal. You've practically become an immortal." Di Biming saw that Yun Chujio did not believe him, so he wanted to say more. Yun Chujio suddenly smiled and said, "However, your silver hair looks pretty good. I have to say that my husband's taste is really good. Prince Charming, why are you so good-looking?" Di Biming's ears were slightly red, and he said unnaturally, "Aren't you hungry? Why aren't you eating?" Yun Chujio giggled and knew that he was shy. She picked up the bowl of porridge and was about to continue feeding him. Unexpectedly, Di Biming's body started to emit a cold aura and a thin layer of ice appeared. It was obvious that the seal had loosened and the cold poison was acting up again. Yun Chujio sighed speechlessly. The heavens did not want her and the gigolo to love each other. Initially, it was already bad enough that they could not have sex because of Guai Chao. But now, once they had feelings for each other, the gigolo would have to suffer from the cold and poison. He could only seal the 7 emotions and 6 desires. What the fuck? Hei Xinjiu still helped Di Biming sit up and took out supreme-grade spirit stones to help Di Biming seal the 7 emotions and 6 desires again. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. As the seal ended, the ice on Di Biming's body began to melt, and his expression returned to its calm state. Pan DN0VE1 CM Hei Xinjiu cupped her chin and stared at him for a few times, then said, "Did your seal also fail after one go? Otherwise, why do I feel that you are getting more and more flirtatious each time?" "A certain someone, what do you mean by getting more and more flirtatious each time?" "He was the one who would cause trouble every time he sealed it. He was also helpless, all right." Seeing that the certain someone was ignoring her, Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the certain someone's head of silver hair. "Prince Charming, we have to change our age and appearance again, so your hair is too eye-catching. I have to dye it for you." A certain someone felt that what she said made sense, so he nodded and hummed in agreement. An hour later, a certain someone with a head full of Huang Mao was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Yun Chujio laughed dryly. "Mistake. Mistake. It was a pure mistake. I really did follow the black formula. Perhaps your white hair was too strong, so it turned yellow. However, this yellow color is pretty good. It's golden. How rich." A certain honored warrior was so angry that he was twitching. Rich? Was the word rich related to him being an honored emperor? In the end, Hei Xinjiu tried a few times and finally found a suitable formula to dye Di Biming's hair black. In the next few days, no pursuers from the 9 pavilions caught up. Di Biming's body was also much better. Although his spiritual power was very weak, at least he was able to move. Hei Xinjiu did not dare to tease him too much. She was afraid that she would cause the cold poison to relapse again, so she was safe and sound. "Prince Charming, there is still one more day before we can leave the northern continent. Damn it, we are finally going to leave this damn place," Yun Chujio said excitedly. "We have to be more careful at this time. The 9 pavilions might set up an ambush at the junction of the 2 continents. After all, it is a no-fly zone for hundreds of miles around that area," Di Biming said coldly. Yun Chujio nodded. She prayed in her heart that they would not encounter an ambush. However, what she was afraid of came true. When she and Di Biming reached the no-fly zone for dozens of miles, they were heavily surrounded by the people of the 9 pavilions. The leader was none other than Tower Master Luochen. Yun Chuzhou saw Lan Luochen and the people of the 9 pavilions. She knew that her disguise was useless. Lan Luochen had clearly predicted that they would enter the southern continent from here and had already locked onto them. Yun Chuzhou could not help but sneer, "Yo, your lackeys are not good enough. Are you going to fight personally? I don't understand. How did we offend you that you had to kill us?" Tower Master Luochen gestured behind him, and soon, someone brought Deputy Hall Master Meng over. Tower Master Luochen chopped off his head with a sword, then, he said, "It was this fool who falsely passed down my order. I will never kill you." Yun Chuzhou laughed mockingly, "Never kill me? Then, why did he use me as a shield? Why did he stop us from leaving Chaotian's sect? And why did he intercept us in the valley earlier?" Tower Master Luochen sighed, "Little Jiu, the one I want to kill is him, not you. You can leave now. I won't make things difficult for you." Yun Chujia's smile became even more sarcastic, "Are you out of your mind? He is my fiancé, how could I abandon him? Do you think that everyone is as heartless and ungrateful as you? Lan Luochen, I really regret knowing you. If I could turn back time, I would have killed you then." Tower Master Luochen looked at Yun Chuzhou in disbelief, his eyes filled with pain as he said with a trembling voice, Are you telling the truth? Are you telling the truth?" "Of course it's true, more true than a pearl. I only hate that I don't know people well. Back then, I even had an argument with Prince Charming because of you. I'm simply dumber than a pig." Yun Chuzhou thought of Di Biming's miserable state and the self-destruction of puppets number 1, number 2, and number 3. Her eyes were filled with hatred. "Little Jiu, you don't understand." Tower Master Luochen swallowed the rest of his words. He looked at Di Biming and sneered, "Di Biming, you have dragged little Jiu down many times. A good-for-nothing like you doesn't deserve to have little Jiu. Since we have known each other for a while, you should kill yourself. I'll leave you with a whole corpse. Fuck you. You don't deserve to be a Prince Charming. How dare you teach my Prince Charming a lesson? Shameless." Yun Chuzhou pointed at Tower Master Luchen's nose and scolded. The gloomy look on Tower Master Luchen's face became even more serious. As expected, as long as Di Biming was still alive, little Jiu would never see his good side. Today was the best time to kill this Di Biming. No matter what, they couldn't let him go. Thinking of this, Tower Master Luochen gave a signal to the people behind him. As a result, more than 10 people pounced on Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou subconsciously released De Hua to fight with them. However, she immediately realized that she had been tricked. Tower Master Luchen's real target was Di Biming. At this moment, the two of them had already exchanged blows. However, Di Biming did not have much spiritual power left. How could he be a match for Lan Luochen? In just the blink of an eye, Tower Master Luochen slammed his palm heavily on Di Biming's body. Di Biming fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Tower Master Luochen stared at him with a vicious gaze as he approached Di Biming step by step. Finally, he was going to kill this nightmare with his own hands. It was because of him that he had become the ghost he was today. If it wasn't for Di Biming, he would have already been together with Little Nine. He wouldn't have to endure so many things that he wasn't willing to do. Hence, he had to die. Yun Chuzhou watched as Di Biming was sent flying. She watched as Di Biming spat out blood. She watched as Tower Master Luochen approached Di Biming step by step. Her eyes were red and her heart was filled with monstrous hatred. Suddenly, her eyes were filled with purple lightning. Those lightning bolts shot out from her eyes and instantly, there were several screams. Tower Master Luochen was shocked, and he subconsciously stopped and looked in the direction of Yun Chujio. He saw Yun Chujia's long hair flying in all directions, her face expressionless, and the small lightning bolts in her eyes crackling. It was like a Shura that had walked out of hell. The dozen or so people who had surrounded her had all died. Her figure was like a ghost, and she had already arrived in front of him. She looked at him with a chilling gaze. Suddenly, the small lightning in her eyes shot toward him. Tower Master Luochen hurriedly dodged while raising his spiritual energy shield. Even so, a purple lightning broke through the spiritual energy shield and hit his front heart. Tower Master Luochen staggered a few steps, and the people of the 9 pavilions immediately surrounded him, protecting Tower Master Luochen in the middle. Tower Master Luochen looked at Yun Chujio, who was completely different from before, and said with pain and unwillingness, You really want to kill me? Don't you know how I feel about you? Yun Chujio threw her head back and laughed, How you feel about me? You are not worthy. I don't care. If we were still friends in the past, then now we can only be, and will only be enemies, enemies that won't rest until one of us dies. Chapter 3576, You're not praising me. Tower Master Luochen heard Yun Chujia's words and was stunned for a moment. Then, he threw his head back and laughed, Not worthy. An enemy? An enemy that won't rest until one of us dies? Little Jiu, do you really think so of me? Are you really going to ignore my feelings for you? Yun Chujia's face was ice cold, and her voice was so cold that there was no warmth at all. Feelings. There's only hatred between us. Between us, it's either you or me. Are you going to let us go now, or do I have to kill you and force you to leave? Tower Master Luochen suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Yun Chujia's coldness was worse than killing him. He felt that everything was meaningless, and the only light in his life was about to disappear. Yun Chujio looked at Tower Master Luochen, who was spitting out blood, and her eyes didn't have the slightest ripple. She only asked puppet number 4 to carry Beiming, then turned and walked towards the direction of the valley's exit. When the people of the 9 pavilions saw Yun Chujio walking over, they looked at the little lightning in Yun Chujia's eyes and could not help but step back. Tower Master Luchen's eyes were bloodshot. Good, very good. Little Jiu, I did not expect you to look at me like this. One day, you will understand what I have done to you. Move aside and let them go. The people of the 9 pavilions were already shocked by Yun Chujia's strange behavior. When they heard Tower Master Luchen's words, they immediately moved aside. Yun Chujio had puppet number 4 carry Beiming on its back and quickly left. The exclamations of the people of the 9 pavilions came from behind. Tower Master! Tower Master, what's wrong? Yun Chujia's footsteps did not stop. There was blood at the corner of Tower Master Luchen's mouth, and a crazed look appeared in his eyes. Little Jiu, this is only the beginning. Sooner or later, you will be mine. You can't escape. Yun Chujio and Beiming had just entered the territory of the southern continent of Towering Sky Continent when they collapsed on the ground and fainted. When Yun Chujio woke up, she was already lying on the bed of the flying spirit tool while Beiming was meditating at the side. This guy rubbed his eyes. She didn't die. Her memory stopped at the scene of Tower Master Luochen approaching Beiming, and then she couldn't remember anything. She had lost her consciousness, but the little black bird inside the spiritual beast bag knew the specific situation. After a round of lively kissing, Xiao Hanyo He Shinjiu was suddenly in high spirits. In fact, she was quite awesome, but she didn't have a chance to show it. This time, the pretty boy finally saw her power, right? Although she didn't know when this crazy skill would be activated, even though she fainted after using it once and lost her memory after using it, she still felt that she was awesome. The guy glanced at Beiming, who was still meditating, and said, Ouch, ouch, my head hurts. Beiming opened his eyes and looked at her. If you have a headache, shut up and rest. Don't talk. Hey Shinjo, fuck, gigolo, you will lose your friends if you talk like this. The guy blinked and tried to find something to say. Idle, how did we get out of trouble yesterday? Was there an expert helping us? Di Baiming knew that she was asking the obvious question, so he ignored her. He Xinjiu saw that a certain someone was not answering her, so she said unwillingly, Prince Charming, why aren't you saying anything? Could it be that a little fairy saved us? He Xinjiu looked at a certain someone, and the little person in her heart jumped. Say it, she is that cute little fairy. Unfortunately, the god only looked at her indifferently and did not say anything. He Xinjiu saw that Di Baiming did not cooperate with her, so she could only shamelessly say, Prince Charming, aren't you going to praise me? Wasn't my performance very awesome before? Chapter 3577, 9-core grass, aren't you hungry? A certain someone didn't answer He Xinjiu's question. Instead, he asked indifferently. As soon as He Xinjiu heard that she was going to eat, she immediately forgot about her desire to show off. She hummed and asked Di Baiming to feed her. Although Di Baiming knew that she was faking it, when he thought about how she fainted earlier, he still fed her even though his face was cold. He Xinjiu was secretly happy. This pretty boy was getting more and more flirtatious. She felt that it didn't matter if he could seal his 7 emotions and 6 desires in the future. After all, he was always nice to her. After the meal, He Xinjiu was about to act like a demon when a certain someone said faintly, You have been away for such a long time. Aren't you going to ask about the situation in the East Phoenix country? Sure enough, He Xinjiu's attention was immediately diverted. She quickly took out Prime Minister Sima's voice transmission talisman to ask about the recent situation. Prime Minister Sima replied very quickly. The old man's voice was very excited, Your Majesty. Our 4 countries' allied forces will soon take down the Ghost Gold Kingdom and the Winged Fire Kingdom. This old minister is worried that when the time comes, the Willow, Earth, and 3 countries will burn the bridge after crossing the river. It's great that you've returned. When Yun Chuzhou heard Prime Minister Sima's words, she immediately said in a pretentious manner, Don't worry. You just deal with them. Wait for this emperor to deal with them. He Xinjiu put away her voice transmission talisman and said to a certain someone, Prince Charming, I think it's better for you to become a young prince. Otherwise, I'm afraid that it will arouse the Lihan Palace's suspicion. A certain someone was silent for a moment, then said, Judging from some clues, there should be a connection between the Lihan Palace and the 9 pavilions. It doesn't matter whether I change my appearance or not. You have to be prepared. The hateful palace should be making trouble very soon. You have to take down the Jun Tian kingdom before they make trouble. Yun Chuzhou was stunned at first, then she carefully combed through some things. She felt that what Di Baiming said made sense. The reason why the Yun family had brought her back was because of the so-called prophecy of the imperial preceptor of the East Phoenix Kingdom. What disaster of the East Phoenix Kingdom that only she could save? It was simply nonsense. She had clearly plotted to usurp the throne, all right. And the imperial preceptor of the East Phoenix Kingdom was someone from the Lihan Palace. It was likely that all of this was premeditated. Also, the Lihan Palace wanted to find Mei Lan Liuli to target the gigolo, and the one who wanted Di Baiming dead the most was Lan Luochen. It was just that she did not know how he knew that Mei Lan Liuli would cause Di Baiming's cold poison. Yun Chuzhou felt as if there was a layer of fog separating them. Although she could not see it clearly, based on her intuition, the Li Hate Palace should have something to do with Lan Luochen. When she thought of this, she could not help but feel anxious. The Li Hate Palace could be said to be able to cover the sky with one hand in the southern continent. If she did not quickly take precautions, she was afraid that the odds were against her. He Xinjiu looked at a certain god and her heart moved. Prince Charming, I think we need to adjust our plan. We are not in a hurry to rush to the battlefield. It is better to first find all the herbs you need. Di Baiming's eyes revealed a hint of hesitation. The other herbs are still manageable. However, it's very dangerous to obtain the 9-core grass. It's better for me to slowly recover my spiritual power. Yun Chujio waved her hand. If it weren't for the incident with the Lihan Palace, you could naturally take your time to recover. However, I can't deal with the Lihan Palace by myself, so I have to let you recover your spiritual power first. Di Baiming tightened his grip and nodded. Alright, then we'll go look for the 9-core grass first. Yun Chujio took out the voice transmission talisman and told Prime Minister Sima what to do next. Then, she turned around and flew towards the Yanwei mountain where the 9-core grass might grow. Chapter 3578, The Uneasy Di Baiming. Soon, Yun Chujio noticed something amiss. Ever since he said that he was going to Yanwei mountain, Di Baiming's cold expression hid a trace of unease. He Xinjiu subconsciously thought that he was worried that there were dangerous demonic beasts in Yanwei mountain. Hence, she said with a smile, Prince Charming, you don't have to worry too much. Although there might be powerful demonic beasts in Yanwei mountain, I'm not easy to deal with either. Humph. The last HMPH of this fellow was somewhat arrogant. A certain deity faintly hummed in agreement, obviously somewhat absent-minded. He Xinjiu was so smart. She immediately felt that this Yanwei mountain probably had some tricks up its sleeve. Otherwise, with Di Baiming's intelligence, he would have suggested going to Yanwei mountain to look for the 9-core grass first. Strange, what was he worried about? A few days later, the two of them finally arrived at the foot of Yanwei mountain. The towering mountain was faintly discernible in the clouds and mist. It looked like it was floating in the air. After the two of them entered the mountain, the demon beasts they encountered at the beginning were not of high levels. He Xinjiu did not even need to make a move. The puppets number 4 and number 5 were all taken care of. He Xinjiu could not help but feel a little smug. Prince Charming, did you see that? I just don't have the good materials to make the puppets. Otherwise, I will make an army of puppets. It will be awesome. Di Baiming glanced at her. Even if you have the materials, you won't be able to make so many puppets. So, don't dream about it. Hey Xinjiu, it must be hard for you not to scold me for a day, right? The two of them chatted with each other while they walked into the mountain. Even though they met some high-level demon beasts later, they were successfully dealt with by De Hua and He Xinjiu. Moreover, this fellow still had a large group of giant winged birds in his hands, so he was very confident. Finally, Yun Chujio saw a few herbs that looked very similar to Di Baiming's description in front of her. She said in surprise, 9-core grass. It's 9-core grass. Yun Chujio was about to go forward to pick the 9-core grass, but she was grabbed by Di Baiming's arm. There was a hint of anxiety in his voice. I'll go pick it. You stand here and don't move. Yun Chujio giggled. Your spiritual power is not even as good as mine now. I'll go. Di Baiming's voice suddenly turned cold. If I say I'll go, I'll go. You wait here. Yun Chujio was shocked by Di Baiming's cold voice. Before she could react, Di Baiming had already jumped to the front and picked a few 9-core grass and put them into his storage ring. Yun Chujio was baffled. There was no danger. Why was the gigolo so nervous? Was he crazy? Until the two of them left Yanwei Mountain, they did not encounter any great danger. He Xinjiu was even more suspicious. It was nothing. Why did the gigolo say that this place was very dangerous? Prince Charming, since all the herbs are here, why don't I refine the pills now? That way, you can recover faster. He Xinjiu decided to be magnanimous and not lower herself to his level. Di Baiming did not object. He only said, you can refine the pills, but I'll put the herbs here so that you won't waste them. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. She was an alchemy genius. The gigolo did not know how to refine pills. It would only be a waste if he put the herbs here, all right? However, when she saw Di Biming's serious face and did not seem to be joking, she could only nod. All right, I'll give the command. You can put the herbs here. Chapter 3579, Di Biming Peking He Shinjiu took out the heaven and earth furnace and warmed it up. Then, she instructed Di Biming to put the herbs into the furnace according to her instructions. Di Biming quickly and accurately put the herbs into the furnace, but his eyes were constantly focused on Yun Chujiu. He Shinjiu naturally felt Di Biming peeking at her. She was suspicious but also a little proud. The gigolo was peeking at her. Did he think that she looked better? Finally, the unique fragrance of the pills came from the heaven and earth furnace. He Shinjiu was delighted. It worked. Di Biming's expression became more and more nervous. He looked at Yun Chujiu more and more frequently. He Shinjiu could not hold back her curiosity. She looked at Di Biming and asked, "Prince Charming, do you think that I look better and better? Otherwise, why do you keep peeking at me?" Di Biming did not refute her as usual. Instead, he hummed in agreement. He Shinjiu felt that something was wrong. What was wrong with this gigolo? Finally, the pill refinement was completed. After the lid of the pill furnace was opened, Di Biming quickly put the pills into his storage ring. He Shinjiu looked at him as if he was guarding against thieves. She could not help but laugh. Was he afraid that she would steal them? Di Biming looked at Yun Chujiu a few more times and only heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that she was as usual. The 9-core grass was also known as the 9 Revolutions Revival Grass. He knew that Yun Chujiu was an otherworldly soul and was afraid that the original soul of this body had not dispersed yet. If she smelled the scent of the 9 Revolutions Revival Grass, it was very likely that she would fight with Yun Chujiu for the right to use the body. However, this was not what Di Biming was most worried about because the probability of the original soul of this body not dissipating was very, very small. He was more worried about the fact that Yun Chujiu's body also had a seal. The 9-core grass had a weak effect of activating the seal. He was afraid that something unusual would happen after Yun Chujiu activated the seal. He was also worried about the consequences of Yun Chujiu activating the seal and what harm it would cause her. There were only a few reasons why she was sealed. Either it was to suppress her old illness, or to hide her whereabouts to avoid powerful enemies, or she was seriously injured at that time. If it was the last reason, it would be fine, but he was afraid that it was the first 2 reasons. Moreover, deep in his heart, there was still some fear that he had not noticed. If little Jiu activated the seal, would she forget him? Yun Chujiu knew nothing about this. This fellow urged Di Biming to quickly consume the medicinal pill to recuperate and try to recover his strength as soon as possible. Then, he controlled the flying spirit tool to fly towards the battlefield. At this moment, the 4 countries' alliance army had just taken down the winged fire country. The monarchs of the 3 countries of the Willow Earth country had personally come to the battlefield. The 3 of them secretly reached a consensus that the next step was to annex the East Phoenix country. The 3 of them agreed that tonight's celebratory feast would be a good time to shed all pretense of cordiality. At that time, they would capture all the generals of the East Phoenix country and force them to surrender. At night, the large tent that the Willow country had specially built was brightly lit, and they toasted each other. It was very lively. Prime Minister Sima appeared perfunctory on the surface, but in his heart, he was very worried. He felt that tonight might be the time to shed all pretense of cordiality. Although he had already made the arrangements according to His Majesty's words, he was still uncertain in his heart. Would this attract a wolf to drive a tiger away? Just as Prime Minister Sima's heart was beating wildly. Emperor Zhaoyi of the Willow country said with a fake smile, "Prime Minister Sima, is your country's female emperor still in seclusion? It's not that my words are a little harsh, but this time, she didn't even show her face at the 4 Kingdoms celebratory banquet." It's really a little disloyal. Chapter 3580 I can promise you, Prime Minister Sima said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, Your Majesty Zhao Yi, although our Emperor Fenghua has been in closed-door cultivation all this time, our East Phoenix country has used all the strength of the entire country in this war. If this isn't considered a righteous act, then how can it be considered a righteous act? Emperor Zhao Yi was stunned. He had thought that once he said those words just now, Prime Minister Sima would definitely be filled with trepidation. He had not expected that Prime Minister Sima would say such a thing. His expression was a little unsightly, his tone was a little stiff as he said, Prime Minister Sima, it is only right for your East Phoenix country to give its all. After all, it is your East Phoenix country that the Three-Star Ridges want to destroy. If it was not for the help of our three countries, I'm afraid that the East Phoenix country would no longer exist. Emperor Qiantong of the Zhangyue country and Emperor Shenkong of the Zhinshui country also echoed, that's right. People should know how to be grateful. Don't tell me that your East Phoenix country is trying to burn the bridge after crossing the river. If that's the case, then it really doesn't make sense. Prime Minister Sima had long known that this meal was not that simple. Now that he saw Emperor Zhao and the other two being so aggressive, he knew that they were preparing for a falling out. Fine beads of sweat gradually began to seep out from his forehead. When Emperor Zhao saw that Prime Minister Sima was finally starting to panic, he could not help but feel pleased in his heart. Did the East Phoenix Kingdom think that their three kingdoms had helped them for nothing? They were really stupid. The moment they agreed to help, they had already planned it out. The East Phoenix Kingdom was asking for the skin of a tiger, and they could not rely on anyone else. Emperor Zhao Yi placed his wine cup heavily on the table. Let me say this first. If the female emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom does not attend this celebration banquet today, then don't blame our three kingdoms for being impolite. Just as Prime Minister Sima did not know how to respond, he heard a clear voice coming from outside the large tent. Oh, impolite? How are you planning to be impolite? Everyone's gaze turned towards the entrance of the tent, only to see a woman in red walking in. Every step of the woman was indescribably noble and elegant, without the slightest bit of discomfort or pause due to the gazes of the crowd. When Prime Minister Sima saw the person who had come, he almost cried. Your Majesty! You've finally returned. If you don't come back soon, he really doesn't know what to do. However, Emperor Zhao Yi and the others were clearly planning to shed all pretense of cordiality. Would your Majesty have any way to deal with them? Although Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two didn't know Empress Jiao, they could guess Empress Jiao's identity from Prime Minister Sima's and the others' reactions. The three of them curled their lips. Although this girl was quite good-looking, they couldn't find anything wrong with her bearing, but what could a little girl do? Today, they had to make use of this opportunity to cause trouble. The East Foam Kingdom was doomed. Emperor Zhao Yi snorted coldly, you must be the Zephyr female emperor, right? You are really arrogant, making us three wait for you here. Your East Foam Kingdom has received the favor of our three kingdoms, is this how you repay us? Empress Jiao looked at him leisurely, then what do you want in return? Empress Zhao Yi almost laughed out loud. This female emperor of Zephyr Nation was really stupid, really cooperating with them. He snorted coldly, naturally, it's to repay us with your territory. As long as you agree to abdicate the throne and merge the territory of East Phoenix Kingdom into our three kingdoms, we will promise you an official title of enjoying a comfortable life. What do you think? Empress Jiao smiled faintly and said, this proposal is really not bad. I originally felt that this emperor had no meaning in front of us, so I can agree to it. Prime Minister Sima and the envoys of the East Phoenix Kingdom were instantly dumbfounded. Their Majesty actually wanted to agree to Emperor Zhao. Was she crazy or stupid? Chapter 3581 had nothing to do with our East Phoenix Kingdom. Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two nearly burst out laughing. This lass must be afraid. But that was also true. It was a piece of cake for the three kingdoms to take down the East Phoenix Kingdom, and she had no choice but to agree. Before Emperor Zhao Yi could say anything, she heard Empress Jiao say with some difficulty, "I can agree, but I wonder which kingdom our East Phoenix Kingdom will belong to in the future." Emperor Zhao Yi immediately said, "Star Sun Country and East Phoenix Country happen to border with our Willow Soil Country, so it will naturally be taken over by our Willow Soil Country." Emperor Qiantong of the Zhanyue country and Emperor Shenkong of the Zhinshui country immediately refused. "Your Majesty Zhao, what you said is wrong. Those that border or not can be changed. Star Sun country is easy to deal with, but why should East Phoenix country belong to your Willow Soil country?" "That's right. Isn't taking down the Star Sun kingdom and the four kingdoms all the credit of your Lu Tu kingdom? What right do you have to take all the credit?" In the blink of an eye, Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two were in a heated argument. Empress Jiao pursed her lips. She thought that their alliance was indestructible. How could it be broken with just one sentence? It was even worse than the three kingdoms of the Southern Dragon Kingdom. Empress Jiao did not participate in their argument. She directly waved at a soldier who was in charge of passing on the dishes. "Give me a good banquet." No matter what, Empress Jiao was still the ruler of a country. That soldier naturally did not dare to be negligent. Very quickly, a sumptuous banquet was prepared. Empress Jiao ate while watching the show. She was extremely leisurely. Prime Minister Sima looked at the three of them who were quarreling with each other. Then, he looked at His Majesty who was eating while watching the show. Instantly, he felt much more at ease. Their Majesty was really awesome. Just a few words had caused Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two to fight amongst themselves. It seemed that they wouldn't be able to make things difficult for the East Phoenix Kingdom today. Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two quarreled for quite a while before they finally saw Empress Jiao, who was eating and drinking. At first, they were stunned, but then they immediately understood that they had been tricked. This girl was really scheming. She had actually stirred up their relationship with just a few words. Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two looked at each other and temporarily came to a consensus. No matter how they split up in the future, the most important thing now was to destroy the East Feng Kingdom. Hence, Emperor Zhao Yi sneered, "Don't bother about which country your East Feng Kingdom will belong to in the future. Just write the decree of abdication right now." Yun Chujiao took out a handkerchief and slowly wiped her mouth and hands, then, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. "Originally, I was planning to give up the East Phoenix country, but you guys acted like dogs snatching meat just now. It's really not presentable, so it's better for me to manage this East Phoenix country myself." Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two were simply about to explode from anger. This female emperor of Zephyr actually dared to call them dogs. Was she tired of living? This is simply outrageous. Your East Feng Kingdom is simply ungrateful, burning bridges after crossing the river. Since that's the case, if you don't abdicate, our three kingdoms can only join forces to attack your East Feng Kingdom. Empress Zhao Yi said angrily out of embarrassment. Empress Jiao looked at the three of them with contempt, and then said faintly, "Our East Feng Kingdom is ungrateful, burning bridges after crossing the river. What kind of kindness and righteousness have we forgotten? Don't you have any idea why you sent troops? It's true that our East Phoenix Kingdom has indeed given you a national letter, but what's written on it is not begging you, but cooperation. You made the decision after weighing the gains and losses. What does it have to do with our East Phoenix Kingdom? If you want to have designs on our East Phoenix Kingdom, get as far away from me as possible." Chapter 3582, Do You Want to Destroy the Country? Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two nearly vomited blood. This girl's words were too sarcastic. Since she didn't know how to appreciate favors, there was nothing more to say. Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two looked at each other, then, Emperor Zhao Yi sneered, "We won't argue with you. Since your East Phoenix country is so treacherous, then our three countries can only resort to force. Your East Phoenix country can only wait to suffer the wrath of our three countries. Prime Minister Sima and the others looked at their Empress Jiao. Although their Majesty's words were quite satisfying, what should they do now? Their East Phoenix kingdom had already been exhausted after this war. If the Willow Earth Kingdom were to launch another attack, they would have no way to resist and might really perish. Just as they were worried, they saw their Empress Jiao chuckle lightly and said faintly, "If your three kingdoms aren't afraid of dying, then you can just attack our East Phoenix kingdom." When Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two heard Yun Chujia's words, they could not help but curl their lips. This wretched girl spoke with such big words. Did she mean that the strength of their East Wind country alone could resist the three of them? She was simply overestimating her own strength. Emperor Zhao Yi said disdainfully, "With just your East Phoenix country alone, you want our three countries to be destroyed?" Empress Jiao looked deeply at Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two before saying, "Our East Phoenix country naturally doesn't have the strength, but the Jun Tian country does. If you don't believe me, we can make a bet. Once your three kingdoms send troops to attack our East Phoenix kingdom, the Jun Tian kingdom will take advantage of the situation and attack one of your kingdoms, and then destroy them one by one. In the end, what awaits your three kingdoms will be the fate of having their kingdoms destroyed." Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two didn't think much of it. Why would the Jun Tian kingdom attack them all of a sudden? This was just a stupid girl trying to fool them. "It seems that you don't believe me. Then let's try. When the country is destroyed, just don't cry. They'll go back and wait for you to start the war." After saying that, Empress Jiao stood up and walked leisurely towards the door of the big tent. When Prime Minister Sima and the others saw that their Empress Jiao was leaving, they naturally did not stand there in a daze. They also followed behind Empress Jiao and left the big tent. It wasn't that they hadn't thought of directly detaining or killing Empress Jiao and the others in the tent. However, according to Empress Jiao's arrangements, Prime Minister Sima had already sent many more troops from the East Phoenix Kingdom. Furthermore, when they were attending the banquet, those troops were stationed not far from the tent. Emperor Zhao and the other two didn't dare to act rashly. When Emperor Zhao saw that the people from the East Phoenix Kingdom had left, she asked Emperor Qiantong and Emperor Shenkong with some hesitation, "What do you all think? That darn girl must be exaggerating. Will the Jun Tian Kingdom really take advantage of the situation and attack us?" Emperor Qiantong pondered for a moment and said with some uncertainty, "I've thought about it carefully just now. It's possible that the female emperor of Fenghua was right. If we were the Jun Tian Kingdom, how could we let go of such a good opportunity? No matter what, a vassal kingdom can't be compared to our own territory. If they could annex us, the Jun Tian Kingdom would naturally be very willing." Emperor Shenkong nodded his head. "That's right. Previously, I still felt that the female emperor of Fenghua was exaggerating. However, after thinking about it carefully, what she said does make sense. We can't afford not to be wary of the Jun Tian Kingdom." The three of them discussed and discussed. In the end, they still felt that Empress Jiao's words made sense. If they were to join forces to attack the East Phoenix Kingdom, the Jun Tian Kingdom might very well take advantage of the situation and attack. They might as well stabilize the East Phoenix Kingdom first. After taking down the Jun Heaven Kingdom, they would deal with the East Phoenix Kingdom. Chapter 3583 was carried away on their shoulders after Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two finished their discussion. A banquet was held the next day. During the banquet, the three of them changed the topic and suggested that the four countries form an alliance to attack Jun Tian Kingdom, and then the four countries would divide all the territory equally. Empress Jiao agreed readily, as if she did not remember what had happened the night before. She smiled rather heartlessly. Empress Zhao Yi and the other two despised her in their hearts. This Empress Fenghua was really easy to fool. After taking down Jun Tian Kingdom, their East Phoenix Kingdom would be waiting to be destroyed. After Empress Jiu returned to the big tent, Di Biming, Xue Wuji, and Enfeng were discussing something in the big tent. When Xue Wuji saw He Xinjiu, he was grinning from ear to ear. "Little sister Jiu, you're finally back. I've missed you to death." He Xinjiu pouted. "Is that so? Why did I hear that Brother Wuji was kidnapped by a woman a few days ago? I wanted to save you, but you ran back on your own. You didn't sacrifice your sex appeal to escape, did you?" Xue Wuji's face turned as red as a monkey's butt. He said dryly, "Nonsense. Nonsense. How was I taken away? I was the one who chased after, anyway, I had my reasons. Don't ask any more. Tell me quickly. What did Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two bastards say?" Seeing that Xue Wuji was a little embarrassed, He Xinjiu curled her lips and did not ask further. She said, "They want to form an alliance with the East Phoenix Kingdom again and attack the June Heaven Kingdom together. I know their plan. They just want to destroy the June Heaven Kingdom and then the East Phoenix Kingdom. They are dreaming. When the time comes, I will let them know what it means to throw stones at their own feet." Xue Wuji said a few words in a perfunctory manner before he hurried back to his tent. He could not help but smile foolishly when he recalled what had happened that day. However, he gritted his teeth when he remembered something. He, Xue Wuji, had always acted recklessly, however, ever since he met that little fairy, he could be considered to be extremely cowardly. His reputation as a hero had been ruined. More than a month ago, he had followed the army of the East Phoenix Kingdom to attack the Ghost Gold Kingdom. During their journey, they had passed by a valley that was rich in spirit bees, and Feng said to Enfeng, "Little sister Jiu likes to eat honey. I'll go into the valley to get some honey. You just wait for me at the entrance of the valley." Enfeng felt that this guy was a little off-key, but things were progressing smoothly. It didn't take long, so he didn't say anything. Besides, even if he said anything, young Master Wuji wouldn't listen to him. Thus, Xue Wuji went into the valley to pick honey. Although this guy said that he wanted to help He Xinjiu pick honey, he actually had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Last time, he met that damn woman when he was helping little sister Jiu pick honey. Maybe he could meet her this time too. Unfortunately, this guy had picked a lot of beehives, but he still did not meet the woman from last time. He could only awkwardly leave the valley. Just as he was about to leave with Enfeng, he suddenly saw the back of a woman in the valley. His heart immediately pounded. The more he looked at her, the more he felt that she was the person he had been longing for. Sa chased after the back of the woman. Enfeng was shocked. When he looked up, he only saw one back. Cough, cough. To be precise, there were two, because Xue Wuji had already been carried away by the woman on his shoulder. Chapter 3584. This father and I are very similar. Enfeng's first reaction was to raise his foot and chase after her. However, even though the woman was carrying a person, her speed was extremely fast, and she disappeared in the blink of an eye. Enfeng searched the entire valley, but he was unable to find Xue Wuji. He could only wait at the entrance of the valley. Since the woman did not kill Xue Wuji on the spot, it meant that she did not want Xue Wuji's life. Could it be for the sake of rape? On the other side, Xue Wuji was carried on the woman's shoulder. Soon, the woman activated a talisman and the two disappeared from where they were. This was also the reason why Enfeng could not find them. Xue Wuji did not feel fear or anger because he was imprisoned by the woman. Instead, he greedily smelled the woman's scent. Otherwise, if he had tried his best to resist, he would have been able to break free. It was as if a colorful flower had bloomed in his heart. He had finally met this damnable woman again. This unfaithful woman who refused to admit her debt when she lifted up her skirt. This woman who only paid him a low-grade spirit stone to sell her body. A white light flashed. When he opened his eyes again, Xue Wuji had already arrived in an exquisite courtyard. Before he had the time to settle the score with the woman, he heard a soft and childish voice, "Mother, you're back. Did you capture father?" Xue Wuji was dumbfounded when he saw the little boy running out of the house. Even a fool could tell that the little boy was his child, because he looked like a miniature version of Xue Wuji. The little boy was about 3 or 4 years old. He looked at Xue Wuji curiously with his big black eyes and reached out his chubby little hand to touch Xue Wuji's face. He clapped his little hand and said, "Mother, this father looks like Ruier." Xue Wuji's heart sank. What did he mean by this father? Could it be that this kid had other fathers? This unfaithful girl had other men? Thinking of this, Xue Wuji's face suddenly turned gloomy like ice. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Kid, do you have other fathers?" The little boy blinked his eyes, tilting his little head. He said, "Yes, mother has found many fathers for Ruier. However, those fathers don't look like Ruier like you. Ruier still likes you the most, so you can sleep with mother." Xue Wuji, what did he mean by he could sleep with his mother? Wait, could it be that this kid meant that those wild men before had never slept with this unfaithful woman? When Xue Wuji thought of this, his expression eased up a little. However, when he thought of how this damnable woman actually made his son acknowledge someone else as his father, he was instantly infuriated once again. Just as he was about to settle the score with that woman untied his confinement, but she did not untie his spiritual power confinement. Then, she casually said, "Ruier, I'll leave him to you. Just don't play with him to death. Mother will go and cultivate." Xue Wuji, what did she mean by don't play him to death? What did she think of him? As a toy? This damn woman. That woman did not care about what he thought. She went into the room to cultivate without turning back, leaving Xue Wuji staring at the miniature version of himself. At this moment, this fellow suddenly thought of an extremely important question. Where did this kid come from? Could it be the product of the first time he and that unfaithful woman did it? Xue Wuji recalled that the unfaithful woman said that she wanted to borrow something from him. Could it be that she wanted to borrow something from him? Wasn't he just a tool for that unfaithful woman to give birth to a child? When Xue Wuji thought of this, he immediately felt that the little thing in front of him was not pleasing to the eye. Chapter 3585, Ruier has many fathers. The little boy saw Xue Wuji's unfriendly eyes and could not help but say proudly, "Don't you want to be Ruier's father? If you don't want to, then forget it. Anyway, there are many people who want to be Ruier's father." Xue Wuji was so angry that he almost fainted. He suppressed the anger in his heart, squeezed out a smile and said, "Who said I don't want to? Of course I want to. Ruier, right? Come, tell your father who wants to be your father." The little boy tilted his little head and looked at Xue Wuji with blinking eyes. Then, he curled his lips and said, "You say you're willing, but in your heart, you're not. Otherwise, why didn't you lift me up high?" Xue Wuji, this kid was practically a demon. However, how could he not be willing? But what was the deal with this kid talking about so many fathers? Xue Wuji bent down and picked up the little boy, then lifted him up high. The little boy immediately started giggling. When the woman in the room who was cultivating heard the little boy's happy laughter, she frowned. She did not go to catch him at all today. It was just a coincidence. It was just a last-minute idea to bring him back to make Ruier happy. Although Ruier was very sensible, she still hoped to have her father by her side. Although she did not have any feelings for that guy outside, it was not impossible for her to keep him for Ruier, but it was definitely not possible for the time being. Xue Wuji and Ruier played for a while. Ruier's little face was red with laughter, and she became closer to Xue Wuji. Xue Wuji was originally a little indignant that the woman used him as a reproductive tool, but at this moment, his heart softened. He should thank that woman. Otherwise, why would he have such a cute son? However, what was the matter with so many fathers? Seeing that Ruier was having fun, Xue Wuji coughed dryly and asked in a low voice, Ruier, tell father what kind of people are the fathers you mentioned. How do they know your mother? Ruier looked at Xue Wuji in confusion and then said softly, Father, you're too stupid. Those fathers aren't human. Xue Wuji stumbled. Not human. Could it be that the unfaithful girl had such a strong taste? Did she like demons or demonic beasts in human form? Xue Wuji tightened his hands and asked with a trembling voice, what are they if not human? Ruier counted with her fingers. Mother sometimes said that I jumped out from the crack of a rock. Sometimes she said that I was born on a tree, and sometimes she said that I was picked up in a stream. Then my father is a rock, a big tree, a stream. Ruier counted with her fingers. Then, she raised her little head and said, I know that those fathers are fake. I was afraid that mother would be sad, so I pretended to believe it. Ruier knows that father is a human. It's impossible for him to be one of those things. Xue Wuji was stunned at first. Then, he looked at the little bun in front of him with complicated feelings. He found it a bit funny, a bit sad, and a bit guilty. Xue Wuji carried Ruier and walked into the house. The woman who was cultivating opened her eyes and looked at Xue Wuji. Xue Wuji's originally full of questions was suddenly stopped by that cold and clear look. He could not say a word, and his face was red for no reason. Ruier said happily, Mother, Ruier likes this father. You can keep father here. In the future, Ruier will listen to mother obediently. Chapter 3586, As expected of a biological son, Xue Wuji gave Ruier a thumbs up in his heart. As expected of a biological son. The woman looked at Xue Wuji indifferently and said, It's not that mother doesn't want him to stay, but he has no way to stay now. He's too weak. When Xue Wuji heard the woman's words, all the blood in his body rushed to the top of his head. What did she mean by he was too weak? Although he was not as perverted as Di Biming, he was still passable. How could he be weak? The woman continued to say to Ruier, go out and play by yourself for a while. I have something to say to him. Ruier obediently walked out of the house with her short legs. Before she left, she gave Xue Wuji a look as if she was seeking her own fortune. Xue Wuji coldly snorted, I'm weak. How am I weak? If I didn't give in to you, do you think you could capture me? The woman did not answer him. Instead, she said coldly, I have my reasons for not letting you stay. When your spiritual power has reached the level of spiritual fusion, you can come and find me. Spiritual fusion. Xue Wuji was so angry that he was twitching. This vicious woman clearly did not want him to stay. Even if he had a seal on him, it was not easy to cultivate to the level of spiritual fusion. This heartless woman. The woman raised her eyebrows. What? You can't do it. Xue Wuji was provoked by the woman's words and immediately said, There is nothing in this world that I can't do. Isn't it just spiritual fusion? It's a piece of cake. Since you've agreed, you can play with Ruier for a while. They'll send you away tomorrow morning, the woman said indifferently. Xue Wuji wished he could bite off his tongue, but he was too embarrassed to take it back. He said dryly, I don't have anything urgent to do. I can stay here for a few days. The woman didn't even look at him. She said indifferently, You can stay as long as you want when you reach the soul fusion level. Xue Wuji heard the woman's mixed feelings. He was happy that the woman had tacitly agreed to his identity. At least he could stay by her and Ruier's side in the future. Then, he could have a wife and children to warm up his bed. He was worried that the level of spiritual fusion was too far away. If he had not broken a part of the seal, he would not have heard of the level of spiritual fusion. It would take a long time for him to reach it. Xue Wuji still wanted to say something, but the woman said coldly, Go out and accompany Ruier. I'm going to cultivate. Although Xue Wuji wanted to say a few more words, he saw that the woman closed her eyes and ignored him, so he could only awkwardly leave the room. When Rui'er saw him come out, he ran in front of him and asked worriedly, "Did mother criticize you too?" "Don't be angry with mother. Mother is doing this for your own good. Mother often criticizes Rui'er too. Rui'er won't be angry with mother." Xue Wuji was amused by Rui'er's childish remarks. No matter what, it was a great joy for him to have such a good son. As for the matter of cultivation, there would always be a way. Xue Wuji played with Rui'er for the whole afternoon. Even when it was very late, Rui'er still refused to go to sleep with Xue Wuji. He hugged Xue Wuji's arm and said softly, "I'm afraid that if I close my eyes, father will disappear, so Rui'er doesn't dare to sleep." When Xue Wuji heard Rui'er's words, his nose turned sour and tears almost fell. He swore in his heart that he would cultivate day and night to try to be by his son's side as soon as possible. A hint of helplessness flashed across the woman's indifferent face. She stroked Rui'er's hair and said, "In the future, mother will find an opportunity to have him come over occasionally to accompany you." Chapter 3587, I want to put on some clothes for you. Hearing the woman's words, Xue Wuji's heart bloomed with joy. He looked at the woman with eager eyes. Did this mean that he could stay here without having to cultivate to the level of soul fusion? The woman ignored him. After some persuasion, she coaxed Rui'er to wash up and fall asleep. Xue Wuji had been sitting by the bed, looking at the woman and Rui'er in a daze. He felt that his heart was filled with happiness. If only time had been frozen at this moment forever. The woman must have guessed his thoughts, he said coldly, "It can only be on a specific day. Moreover, the talisman I used is a random teleportation. We might not meet each other, so don't think too much. What I said just now was just to comfort Rui'er." Xue Wuji's heart instantly turned cold, but he still said with a salivating face, "That might not be true. We are fated to meet. Perhaps we will meet again very soon." The woman only curled the corners of her lips when she heard Xue Wuji's words. She thought to herself, "It really is a bad fate to meet again and again." Seeing that the woman did not say anything, Xue Wuji took a look at the spacious bed, rubbed his hands, and laughed dryly, This, where should I sleep at night? Why don't we sleep together as a family of 3? Xue Wuji's mind suddenly flashed with some scenes that made him dream about them, and his face could not help but turn red again. "You can choose a kitchen or a barn. Or you can live in the courtyard. Anyway, the place is big enough," the woman said coldly. Xue Wuji's face stiffened. He was not a fool. His woman did not sleep. Was he crazy? He came up with an idea in a hurry. He sighed and said, "It's not easy for me to come here, so I want to sleep with Rui'er." "It's not what you think." The woman snorted and did not refute him. Instead, she said, "All right, then you can sleep with Rui'er." A look of surprise flashed across Xue Wuji's eyes. He looked at the woman with burning eyes and said excitedly, "In that case, it's getting late. Let's rest early." The woman glanced at him coldly. "You can rest. I'll meditate and cultivate on the ground tonight." Xue Wuji, fuck. That was not what he wanted, but the words had already left his mouth. He had no choice but to wash up briefly and sleep on the outside of the bed. He could not wait to see the woman start meditating and cultivating. She did not even bother to give him a look. He felt so sullen in his heart. Although he acted recklessly, he still could not do anything to force the woman. Moreover, for some reason, as long as this unfaithful woman looked at him, he would panic to the point that he had nowhere to put his hands and feet. The guy kept his eyes wide open until the second half of the night. He did not dare to make too much noise for fear of waking Rui'er up. In the end, he gritted his teeth and starved the cowards to death. He might not meet this unfaithful woman again. If she was shameless, then so be it. Therefore, the guy quietly got off the bed and walked to the woman's side. He leaned over and kissed the woman's lips. His little heart was about to jump out of his chest. Just when his lips were about to touch the woman's lips, the woman opened her eyes coldly. Shui Wuji was immediately scared out of his wits. He said dryly, "Well, it's late at night. I was afraid that you would catch a cold, so I wanted to put some clothes on you." The woman snorted lightly. "With your mouth?" Shui Wuji's face instantly turned as red as a monkey's butt. He said embarrassedly, that. Shui Wuji's words stopped abruptly because a pair of slightly cold lips kissed his lips. Chapter 3588 was another low-grade spirit stone. Shui Wuji's mind went blank. He could only feel the coolness and softness on his lips. By the time he could think straight, he was already pinned to the ground. The woman's cold eyes stared at him. "What? You have the heart but not the guts. Shut up." Shui Wuji's phoenix eyes were filled with madness. If he could hold it in now, he would be worse than a beast. However, this fellow clearly knew that it was inappropriate to do such a thing in front of his son, so he carried the woman horizontally to the warehouse next to him. After a night of seduction, Shui Wuji fell asleep with satisfaction. When this fellow woke up, he found that he was no longer in the small courtyard. Instead, he was in a valley with a low-grade spirit stone beside him. Damn it, that heartless woman. Was this his compensation for sleeping with him? Shui Wuji looked at the two low-grade spiritual stones in his palm. His expression kept changing, but in the end, he still carefully put the two spiritual stones into his storage ring. There were a few times when Yin Chujio asked him about it. He wanted to tell her everything, but when he thought about how weak he was, he still endured it. Fuck, if that expressionless man and little sister Jiu knew that he was used as a childbearing tool by that unfaithful woman, he would not be able to face anyone in the future. Therefore, he could not tell her about it. He would only tell her about it when he reached the level of spiritual fusion one day. The next day, the four countries formed an alliance once again and officially started a war with the Juntian Kingdom. Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two thought that the Juntian Kingdom was a large country with a strong army and that this war would definitely take a long time. Who would have thought that things would go so smoothly? There were a few cities that did not even use a single soldier. The people guarding the cities immediately surrendered. Although Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two did not understand, they thought that it was probably because the Juntian Kingdom felt that the Juntian Kingdom's power was gone, so they surrendered on their own. After all, a wise man submits to circumstances. In less than 2 months, the allied forces of the four countries had already occupied the Juntian Kingdom, and it could be said that they were moving at lightning speed. Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two were eager to take the Juntian Kingdom for themselves. After all, the spirit chi and resources of a first-grade country were much stronger than those of a second-grade country. Even so, the three of them still maintained their superficial friendliness, because they still had a common goal, and that was to destroy the East Phoenix Kingdom. Thus, the three of them agreed that the June Heaven Kingdom would be jointly managed by the three of them first. They would then redivide the territory after the East Phoenix Kingdom was destroyed. Unfortunately, before the three of them could make things difficult for Empress Jiu, they were trapped in the capital city of the June Heaven Kingdom. The June Heaven Kingdom, from the officials of all sizes to the commoners, unanimously supported Empress Jiu to take over the June Heaven Kingdom. The troops of the June Heaven Kingdom that were originally under Empress Jiu were all taken under her command. Prime Minister Sima's respect for their majesty was overwhelming. Oh God, how did their majesty do it? Why did the people of the Juntian Kingdom agree with their majesty so much? Could it be because their majesty was good-looking? How could he know that the people of the Juntian Kingdom were so obedient because their children were all subordinates of a certain king? Furthermore, a certain king still had the evidence of the children signing their names and pledging their loyalty, so their parents naturally had no choice but to submit. Furthermore, who did not do what the emperor did? Empress Jiao gave them very generous treatment, so they naturally submitted to Empress Jiao. Empress Jiao did not make things difficult for Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two. She gathered the three of them into the throne room and asked casually, "The three of you can either submit or die. Choose for yourself. I won't force you." Chapter 3589, Where Did You Get a Son? Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two were so angry that their noses almost went crooked. Wasn't this called coercion? How else were you going to force them? Emperor Zhao Yi laughed coldly. Although I don't know how you managed to get the people of the Jun Tian kingdom to submit to you, if you really do harm to the three of us, you will never be able to get rid of the name of treachery, and your position as emperor will not be stable. Yun Chujio looked at him sarcastically. Is that a pig's brain on your neck? History books have always been written by the victors. Do you think that I will let people write the truth? When that time comes, the history books will only record that the three of you have gone mad and died. What does it have to do with me? Emperor Zhao Yi and the other two were clearly shocked by Empress Jiao's shamelessness. People could be shameless to this extent, but they were also convinced. She had turned her scheme into a conspiracy. What else could they do other than submit? After Empress Jiao made Empress Zhao Yi and the other two sign a contract to sell their bodies, she smiled and invited them to attend her coronation ceremony. Although Empress Zhao Yi and the other two were so depressed that they wanted to vomit blood, they had no intention of resisting at this point in time because they couldn't beat her even if they fought, and they couldn't beat her even if they played with her mind, so they could only accept the current situation. Female Emperor 9 had always been lazy and had given up on her name. Hence, she directly changed the name of the June Heaven Kingdom to the East Phoenix Kingdom. This fellow was also known as the peerless female emperor, whose beauty could topple a country and bring down a city. She was also known as the Empress of Beauty for short. Female Emperor 9 left everything to Prime Minister Sima while she herself went to Boulder City and got people to tear down all the boulders. Everyone was dumbfounded by Her Majesty's crazy behavior. Why did Her Majesty need these boulders for no reason? Was it to build a house? Hei Shinjo didn't care what they were thinking. She happily put the huge stones into her storage ring. Just as she was about to go somewhere else, Prime Minister Sima sent her a voice transmission talisman. Your Majesty, the hateful palace has gathered all the first-class countries to hold a spiritual stone convention. They said that they will reward the winners of the competition with several spiritual stone veins under their control. Hei Shinjo blinked her eyes. She knew that this was definitely a conspiracy, and it was most likely aimed at her. However, this was also good. The battle with the Lihan Palace was going to happen sooner or later. She might as well take this opportunity to hook up with other first-grade countries and then deal with the Lihan Palace together. The reason why this fellow was so confident was that Beiming's spiritual power had almost recovered. Although it could not be compared to the terrifying spiritual power after using a secret technique, it was definitely a top existence in the southern continent of the towering Sky Continent. However, before she participated in the Spirit Stone Convention, she still needed to do one more thing, and that was to closely monitor the imperial advisors sent by the Lihan Palace to prevent them from causing trouble. Everything was ready, and the date of the Spirit Stone Convention was about to arrive. Thus, Yun Chujio led a group of people and rushed to the Lihan Palace. On the way, Xue Wuji sat there foolishly laughing. Yun Chujio asked curiously, Brother Wuji, what good thing have you thought of? Why are you smiling foolishly? I'm thinking of my precious son. Xue Wuji replied casually. Hei Shinjo was dazed. Son. Brother Wuji, when did you have a son? Why didn't I know about it? It was then that Xue Wuji realized that he had let the cat out of the bag. He replied dryly, I'm just teasing you. I don't even have a wife. How can I have a son? Chapter 3590 would get lost sooner or later. Yun Chujio looked at Xue Wuji suspiciously. No matter how she looked at it, she felt that he was lying. This fellow knew that if Xue Wuji did not want to tell her, it would be useless even if she interrogated him. Thus, he blinked his eyes, he curled his lips and said, "Brother Wuji, it's not that my words are unpleasant, but look at all of us. Only you are still single. There's no need to talk about my Prince Charming. He's lucky to have me. The little madman has Jin Ji, but you're the only one who's alone. I'm really worried for you. If you have nothing to do, learn from my Prince Charming and the little madman. Otherwise, you'll be single for the rest of your life." Hearing Yun Chujia's words, Xue Wuji snorted coldly and retorted, "Do I need to learn from them? Not only do I have a wife, but my son can run all over the place." Xue Wuji's words not only stunned He Xinjiu and Enfeng, but even Di Baiming's calm face showed a hint of surprise. "Ha ha ha. Did you all believe it? You were all deceived by me. Ha ha ha." Xue Wuji laughed loudly to hide his annoyance. Seriously, why did little Jiu's sister provoke him and let the cat out of the bag? Yun Chujiu looked carefully at Xue Wuji's expression and felt that what he said was true. Then, she recalled his usual abnormal behavior, which made her doubt him even more. However, she knew that Xue Wuji was trying so hard to cover up, so there must be something he was hiding. She could not force him, so she said a few words perfunctorily and then changed the topic. Seeing that Yun Chujiu did not mention it anymore, Xue Wuji could not help but feel relieved. He had to be more careful in the future, otherwise, little sister Jiu would be as smart as a monkey, and she would definitely be exposed. Yun Chujiu returned to her cabin. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that what Xue Wuji said was true. Brother Wu Ji's children had all run away. Damn it, Wu Ji's head child was already so big, yet she did not even come to Kuai Shui, let alone little monkey. He Xinjiu immediately cursed the Guai Chao in her dantian 108 times. Guai Chao said, "Go ahead and scold me. I'm already used to it. There will always be a few days every month." He Xinjiu cursed Guai Chao, but she still felt quite aggrieved. Therefore, she secretly went to Di Baiming's cabin, pushed the door open and walked in. Di Baiming, who was meditating, opened his eyes and looked at her. "Don't you know how to knock when you enter?" "I don't know." A certain Jiu said confidently. Di Baiming, what else could he say when he met such a scoundrel? "What's the matter? Can't I look for you if there's nothing? You're my fiancé. I can look for you whenever I want. If you chase me out, I'll cry for you to see." A certain Jiu said with her hands on her hips. Di Baiming, what kind of madness is this? He Xinjiu moved to Di Baiming's side and let out a long sigh. "Prince Charming, you said that the black chicken's head is everywhere. How are we doing? We can't even get out of bed. My heart is almost broken." Di Baiming said indifferently, "You will get out of here sooner or later. It's useless even if your heart is broken into hundreds of pieces." He Xinjiu almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She was so angry that she threw Di Baiming to the ground. There was still no change on the face of a certain lord. He tightened his hands under his sleeves and said coldly, "What are you going to do now? I still need to cultivate. Get out of the way." Chapter 3591, The Little Bun Who Gave Birth to a String of Children. He Xinjiu pinched a certain someone's chin and said slyly, "I've calculated with my fingers that today is a good day with no shame, so let's have sex." A certain someone calmed his beating heart and said, "Are you sure? Aren't you afraid that forcefully having sex because you didn't come to Kuai Shui is not good for your body?" He Xinjiu, who was desperately stripping a certain someone's clothes, paused. Yes, would it be bad for her body if she really had sex with him? However, when this guy thought of Xue Wuji's son who was running all over the place, and then looked at the peerless face that he had pounced on, he immediately had the upper hand. No matter what, he had to strip him first. A certain someone did not expect that He Xinjiu would still strip him after he said those words. His face could not help but change slightly. Before he could push away He Xinjiu who was pressing on his body, He Xinjiu had already made the first move and forcibly restrained his spiritual power. This bastard laughed a few times before he said proudly, "Beauty, just obey me today. Even if you have broken through the 7 emotions and 6 desires, you can just seal it casually. After all, you are very familiar with this technique. A certain someone, little Jiu, don't mess around. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Di Baiming's expression turned cold as he warned her. He Xinjiu didn't care about him. In front of her, a certain someone was just a paper tiger. She wasn't afraid at all. This guy untied a certain someone's belt and held it in his hand. He even shamelessly winked at a certain someone. A certain someone was embarrassed and angry. However, his spiritual power was restrained, so he couldn't break free from He Xinjiu's grip. He Xinjiu threw the demon belt in her hand away and said with a smile, "Beauty, it's getting late. Let's hurry up and give birth to a monkey. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site." Thanks. A certain someone's face suddenly turned red. The heat of his body covered the pain caused by the cold poison. His tone was no longer as indifferent as before. He said with some embarrassment and annoyance, "Stop right now. Or else what? Beauty, don't struggle fearlessly. Let's work hard and give birth to a string of little buns. That black chicken's head will be angered to death." He Xinjiu said with great ambition. The Venerable One was so angry that he was speechless. A string of little buns? Did you think it was candied haws? He Xinjiu's little heart was beating violently. She was about to see the pretty boy. This was what she had been longing for all day. She had the heart but not the guts to watch. Ah! The guy's hand trembled slightly as he tried to untie the Venerable One's clothes. Just as her hand touched the Venerable One's clothes, several bolts of lightning struck the flying spiritual artifact one after another. He Xinjiu was dazed for a moment, then she was so angry that she was twitching. Damn it! It must be Wu Yun who attacked me again. Why did he come at this time? He is trying to ruin my plan. Today, I must tear this damn Wang Ba Yun into pieces. While speaking, He Xinjiu untied a certain Buddha's spiritual energy and rushed out of the cabin. At this moment, Xue Wuji and Enfeng were dumbfounded. How did this flying spiritual tool get struck by lightning? However, when they saw Hei Xinjiu, they immediately understood that the heavenly lightning was here to strike this guy. Yun Chujiu let Enfeng open the cabin door and flew out on the chopping board. Xue Wuji knew that Yun Chujiu was a pervert, so he let Enfeng land the flying spiritual tool on the ground to prevent it from being accidentally injured by the heavenly lightning. Chapter 3592, I will tear Wu Yun apart with my bare hands. Xue Wuji and the others had a few flying spirit tools behind them. It was Prime Minister Sima and the others. Prime Minister Sima had guessed that this was another strike from the heavenly lightning the moment he saw it. Speaking of which, the physique of their emperor's lightning strike was truly a little troublesome. He hurriedly let the flying spirit tool land and stared into the distance with a perturbed heart. He hoped that their emperor would not be struck to another place this time. Otherwise, he would not be able to handle this spirit stone convention. Not to mention the Li Hen Palace, which was eyeing him like a tiger eyeing its prey. Just as Prime Minister Sima was thinking this, he saw a flying spirit tool quickly rush into the sky from the ground. Several bolts of lightning struck the flying spirit tool, illuminating the night sky as if it was daytime. Prime Minister Sima was very puzzled. Could it be that His Majesty could not even pilot a flying spirit tool? You should hurry up and run. Only then can you walk the thunder. Why are you still rushing towards Wu Yun? Aren't you looking for a split? Just as Prime Minister Sima was feeling puzzled in his heart, he heard His Majesty fiercely shout, "Damn it, damned Wang Ba-yun. I told you to ruin my good deed. I told you not to come early or late, but you had to come now. Today, I will tear you into pieces." Prime Minister Sima staggered and fell to the ground with a thud. It was over, their emperor had gone mad. He wanted to tear Wu Yun into pieces. This was simply the words of a madman. Not only him, almost everyone present thought that Yun Chujiu had gone mad. Since ancient times, heavenly thunder had always been supreme. When it was mentioned, everyone's expression changed when they heard it. Their Majesty actually wanted to tear Wu Yun apart with his bare hands. This was really courting death. Come and read on our website Wuxia World Site. Thanks. When Wu Yun in the sky saw He Xinjia's flying spirit tool flying towards it, his heart was also dumbfounded. What did this smelly girl say? She wanted to tear it apart with her bare hands. Was she crazy? The higher the altitude, the greater the power of the heavenly lightning. Not to mention whether she could withstand it or not, even this flying spirit tool was unable to withstand it. She had no way of touching it, let alone tearing it apart. As expected, after Wu Yun struck the flying spiritual device with several heavenly lightning bolts, the flying spiritual device fell to the ground with black smoke rising from it. He Xinjiu was so angry that she was twitching. She had forgotten about this. After the flying spiritual device landed on the ground, it blinked its eyes, patted its nearest chest, and said with a face full of fear, "Damn, I was really out of my mind just now. The heavenly lightning bolts are getting more and more powerful. If I go up there, wouldn't I be courting death?" Fortunately, Wu Yun is also stupid. Otherwise, my life would be in danger. Hearing He Xinjia's mutterings, Wu Yun was so frustrated that he wanted to cry out loud. Yes, why was it so stupid? It should not have hacked at her flying spiritual artifact just now. Wouldn't it be easier to kill her when she flew up? Just as Wu Yun was feeling frustrated, the little girl said to herself again, "Humph. I am really putting on airs for others to destroy my own spirit. What can a broken cloud do? No matter how close I get to it, it won't dare to do anything to me." Immediately after, Wu Yun saw the little girl summon another flying spirit tool and fly towards it. Wu Yun's heart was filled with joy. This stinky girl really overestimated herself. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. This time, it would definitely strike her with all the power of lightning. It would definitely be able to kill her. Wu Yun nervously and excitedly stared at the flying spirit tool that was continuously approaching it. Closer, closer, closer. It had to hit it with one strike. Only this way could it ensure that it would kill that damn stinky girl. Chapter 3593 Cabbage. Finally, the flying spirit tool was only a few zhang away from Wu Yun. Wu Yun gathered all the power of lightning and struck down fiercely towards the flying spirit tool. The loud sound was deafening, and it was heard within a radius of several thousand li. Prime Minister Sima was so frightened by the thunder that he almost fainted. It's over. It's over. Their emperor was really going to die this time. The power of the heavenly thunder was so great that no one could save their lives. Their emperor was really courting death. Prime Minister Sima looked up with tears streaming down his face. He saw that the flying spirit tool had instantly turned into ashes. However, why did it seem like there was a person on the other side of the Wu Yun? Prime Minister Sima rubbed his eyes and pinched himself hard. When he focused his eyes, he realized that it was not that he was seeing things, but that there really was a person on the other side of Wu Yun. Wasn't the person who was standing on the large chopping board their country-toppling, peerless female emperor? Not to mention Prime Minister Sima, Wu Yun also had an earth-shattering look of bewilderment on his face. This damned girl didn't die. Standing on the chopping board, He Xinjiu rubbed her hands and said with a sinister smile, "Little Yun Yun, you also have this day. Do you know what kind of strategy this emperor is using? This is called a golden cicada escaping its shell, this is called the diversion of trouble, this is called deceiving the heavens and crossing the sea. This is called cultivating in the open and cultivating in the dark. You, this uncultured fool, still want to fight with this emperor? Now, you've almost used up your thunder and lightning power, right? How can you fight me? Today I will tear you to pieces and make you the first cloud to be torn from the past to the present. Come and read on our website Wuxia World Site. Thanks. Wu Yun was suddenly dumbfounded. The little pervert was right. It had just used all the power of thunder and lightning on that strike. Although it still had a bit of power of thunder and lightning, it had no effect on this pervert at all. It was now a piece of meat on the chopping board, the cabbage in the little pervert's hands. Hei Xinjiu did not care what it was thinking. It rushed in front of Wu Yun, stretched out its claws and began to tear Wu Yun apart. As it tore Wu Yun apart, it kept it in its storage ring. This tribulation cloud was different from ordinary clouds. It was not formed by water vapor. It was a good thing. Of course, this was all his own guess because no one had ever had any designs on Wu Yun. He also did not know how Wu Yun was formed. Although Wu Yun could change its shape at any time and could be divided into several small dark clouds at any time, he had never encountered a situation where he was being stripped of his wool. Hei Xinjiu did not care what Wu Yun was thinking. This guy was feeling really happy. If she put Wu Yun into her storage ring, would she be able to create a somersault cloud in the future? This was much better than riding a phoenix or a dragon. The more Hei Xinjiu thought about it, the faster his hands moved. In the end, he simply took out a large kitchen knife and cut down Wu Yun piece by piece like cutting cotton candy. Everyone below was dumbfounded. Oh God! Their Majesty was simply not a human. He actually dared to chop Wu Yun. Moreover, was Wu Yun a fool? Even if there were no more lightning, why didn't you run? Why did you foolishly wait for their Majesty to chop you? Actually, Wu Yun was scared silly by Hei Xinjiu's valiant behavior. He just didn't react for a moment. Fortunately, he finally came to his senses and floated away with a whoosh. What a joke! If he didn't leave now, he would really become the saddest Wu Yun in history. Chapter 3594 was not bad. Hei Xinjiu saw Wu Yun floating away and ordered the chopping board to chase after him. Wang Ba Yun, stop right there. I haven't finished chopping yet. Wu Yun was both angry and afraid. How could there be such a pervert in the world? Therefore, he floated even faster. Yun Chujiu saw that Wu Yun was drifting further and further away. She cursed angrily, Wang Ba Yun, if you have the ability, don't let me see you in the future. Otherwise, I will chop you every time I see you. Wu Yun trembled a few times and drifted even faster. Seeing that Wu Yun had drifted away, Yun Chujiu shouted to the people below, continue to set off. Prime Minister Sima and the others were all dumbfounded. Their emperor had scared Wu Yun away. Oh God! Their emperor was simply inhuman. Everyone boarded the flying spiritual device in a daze and continued to move forward. Xue Wuji moved closer to Hei Xinjiu, he gave her a thumbs up. Little sister Jiu, there is only one person that I admire in my life, and that is you. You are too bold. You even dared to slash Wu Yun. Aren't you afraid that it will strike you with all the power of lightning? Yun Chujiu said casually, I have already thought of a way to escape. That stupid cloud won't be able to do anything to me. Although this fellow said so, she was actually a little scared. Just now, she was completely blinded by anger because she was disturbed by Wu Yun when she was looking at the pretty boy's pot. Indeed, the word lecture-shirt people a lot. When this fellow thought of this, she subconsciously looked at the expression of a certain honored guest beside her. She saw that the cold air on a certain honored guest's body was almost tangible. Obviously, he was still angry with her. Seeing this fellow said a few words perfunctorily. She hurriedly went into her cabin to prevent a certain one from settling the score with her. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. This fellow leaned against the door and listened. Seeing that Di Biming did not chase after her, she immediately let out a long breath. As expected, impulsiveness was a devil. She would not dare to do this next time. This fellow thought of the matter from before. Although it was very satisfying to have Wu Yun scared away by her, the depressing thing was that she could not absorb the power of lightning, so she could not break through. It was simply not worth it. Just when the guy was depressed, he remembered that he had cut down some of Wu Yun in his storage ring. He could not help but open his storage ring and take out Wu Yun. The dark clouds had automatically gathered into a small dark cloud the size of an oil paper umbrella. Hei Xinjiu could not help but mutter, I cut down so many of them, but how did they become so small? The guy pinched and pinched it with his hands. It was an indescribable feeling. It felt like cotton, lighter than cotton, and somewhat soft. Hei Xinjiu was immediately amused. This thing would probably be a good quilt. It was light and soft, but it was a little too small. She would definitely make more of it the next time she encountered Wu Yun. Therefore, this guy laid Wu Yun on the bed and then lay on it. He rolled around comfortably. This thing was really good. This guy was tired after a round of torture and fell asleep in a daze. The dark clouds that were pressed down by her floated out from under Hei Xinjia's body and gathered into a small dark cloud again. Then, they floated towards the cabin door. Just as Wu Yun was about to escape from the cabin door, Hei Xinjiu felt a pain in her dantian. Then, she opened her eyes in confusion and saw Wu Yun, who was about to escape from prison. Wu Yun did not care about anything else. He jumped to the door and pulled Wu Yun back. Damn! Where do you want to go? Are you looking for that bastard? Of course, Wu Yun would not answer her. Hei Xinjiu held her chin and pondered. Logically speaking, Wu Yun was only a part of that bastard and should not have any spiritual sense. Could it be Wang Bayun's doing? Chapter 3595, A little Wu Yun. Thinking of this, Wu Yun put the little Wu Yun into his storage ring and walked out of the cabin. He looked out of the observation window and found that there was indeed a little Wu Yun floating stealthily not far from the flying spiritual artifact. It was the bastard Yun that had struck her during the day. Hei Xinjiu curled her lips, opened the observation window, and said with a smile, My dear little Yun Yun, did you miss me? Why are you back? Wu Yun saw Hei Xinjia's smile and could not help but tremble. Damn little pervert. It was not missing her. It wanted to summon back the cloud wings that the little pervert had cut off. Every dark cloud was made of a cloud core and a number of cloud wings. The more cloud wings there were, the higher the grade of the dark cloud. These cloud wings were all painstakingly cultivated by it. If they were snatched away by the little pervert just like that, wouldn't it suffer a great loss? Just as Wu Yun was thinking about it, the little pervert continued, Xiao Yun Yun, I think the little dark cloud that I cut off from your body is pretty good as a quilt and blanket. Are you here to deliver some goods to my door again? Wait for me. I'll go out and chop some more. Hearing Hei Xinjia's words, Wu Yun immediately drifted away like a dog. Moreover, it was the kind that would never turn back. It was afraid that if it ran too slowly, not only would it not be able to get back the cloud wings from before, but it might even have to get more cloud wings from this little pervert. Hei Xinjiu watched as the cloud wings quickly turned into Xiao Hei's black dot. Wu Yun pursed his lips. This idiot still wants to fight with me. I can't torture it to death. However, since Wu Yun cared so much about Xiao Hei, it must be a good thing. She had to study it carefully. After returning to her cabin, she took out little Wu Yun from her storage ring and fiddled with it. In the end, she gritted her teeth and pricked her index finger with a needle in pain, dripping blood on little Wu Yun. The fellow stared at little Wu Yun. She thought that there would be some miracle, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. Little Wu Yun was still lying weakly on the bed. No matter how He Xinjiu pinched her, there was no reaction at all. He Xinjiu was instantly discouraged. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. It seemed that although little Wu Yun might be a treasure, it was useless to her. It was a waste of effort. The guy yawned and fell asleep on little Wu Yun. What the guy didn't know was that not long after she fell asleep, countless purple dots rushed into the cabin from all directions, all rushing into little Wu Yun's body. The next morning, He Xinjiu opened her eyes and stretched her back. Then, she saw a little Wu Yun floating above her head. To be exact, it was a little Wu Yun that was slightly purple in color. When little Wu Yun saw Yun Chujiu looking at it, it even trembled cheerfully and floated around He Xinjiu happily. He Xinjiu, the wool that was plucked had turned into a spirit. How did it break? While He Xinjiu was still in a daze, she felt a faint trace of joy in her spiritual sense. It was clearly Wu Yun's emotion. Did this mean that she had taken in a little Wu Yun? The guy was stunned for a while before he jumped up and said to Wu Yun, "Little Wu Yun, let's go and show off with master." The guy opened the cabins, and with a little dark cloud above his head, he shouted arrogantly, "Prince Charming, Brother Wu Ji, little madman, come out quickly. I want to show you something good." Di Biming and the other two were attracted by the guy's shout, and then they looked at the little dark cloud flying above He Xinjiu with their mouths agape. Chapter 3596 was indeed awesome. Xue Wuji was so surprised that he didn't close his mouth for a long time. He pointed at little Wu Yun in a daze and asked, "Little sister Jiu, what? What is this?" "Little Wu Yun. This is what I cut off from Wu Yun yesterday. It's soft to the touch. It's very comfortable to use as a quilt and blanket," He Xinjiu said proudly. Xue Wuji, of course, he knew that He Xinjiu chopped it off from Wu Yun. The question was, why did it follow little Jiu? It seemed to have become her spiritual pet. Ah, no, cloud pet. He Xinjiu waved her hand and held little Wu Yun in her arms. Then, she said smugly, "Come here and touch it. It feels so good." Xue Wuji could not hold it in any longer. He reached out his hand to touch little Wu Yun, but little Wu Yun suddenly hid behind He Xinjiu and refused to obey. Xue Wuji, was he being despised? Anfeng secretly reached out his hand from behind. Unfortunately, before he could touch little Wu Yun jumped onto it and even trembled in dissatisfaction. He Xinjiu was overjoyed when she saw this. This little thing had quite a bit of moral integrity. This was good, in case she was kidnapped by others. Just as she was thinking about this, she saw that little Wu Yun was approaching a certain someone. Her flattering manner was exactly the same as He Xinjiu's. "He Xinjiu, damn it. I can't live anymore." Was it her Yun pet or the Yun pet of a pretty boy? Without waiting for He Xinjiu to teach Wu Yun a lesson, a certain someone slapped Wu Yun back with a wave of his hand. He said coldly, "What are you keeping this useless thing for? If you have time, you might as well cultivate properly. How long has it been since you had a breakthrough?" He Xinjiu, fuck, her boyfriend was about to become her father. It was too terrible. Little Wu Yun curled up into a ball and trembled. She was obviously frightened by a certain someone. Then, something unexpected happened. Little Wu Yun struck down several heavenly lightning bolts at He Xinjiu. Although the power could not be compared to normal heavenly lightning bolts, it was enough to shock the world. He Xinjiu was stunned by the strike. She was struck. She had been struck by her little Wu Yun. After striking dozens of heavenly lightning bolts, little Wu Yun stopped. The faint purple color on her body also disappeared. Nobody said anything for a moment. They looked at little Wu Yun, who was curled up into a small ball, in confusion. A moment later, He Xinjiu burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha. I've made a fortune. I won't have to worry about leveling up without lightning anymore. I'll have the godly lightning strike weapon with me in the future, ha ha ha. With this weapon, I'll let little Wu Yun kill anyone who dares to provoke me. From now on, I'll walk to the peak of my life. Ha ha ha. Shui Wuji and Enfome looked at each other. This was indeed awesome. Whoever provoked this guy in the future would be looking for trouble. Don't be happy too early. The power of lightning it carries should be very limited. The lightning just now was not a big threat to people, let alone allowing you to break through. Di Biming's clear voice was like a bucket of cold water that poured cold water over He Xinjia's heart. He Xinjia's face stiffened, and then she said unwillingly, "Who said that?" "Little Wu Yun, come, strike master a few more bolts of heavenly lightning, no, a few hundred more." Little Wu Yun trembled and shrunk into a small ball. It was obvious that she was somewhat guilty, and not a single bolt of heavenly lightning struck down. Chapter 3597, I'm really grateful to you. He Xinjia's mood was like falling into a muddy pond from the clouds. She was so angry that she poked little Wu Yun and cursed, "You useless thing. Can you only hack dozens of weak little heavenly lightning bolts?" Little Wu Yun trembled. Although she could not speak, He Xinjiu could feel that little Wu Yun was very wronged. It was rare for He Xinjiu to have a conscience. She did not scold little Wu Yun anymore. Instead, she comforted herself, although this little Wu Yun is a little weak, it can at least gather lightning. This little Wu Yun can gather more lightning and strike me whenever it's free. It's not bad. Moreover, this thing can be used as a blanket and blanket. It's light and gentle. It's not bad. Most importantly, I can use it to annoy Wu Yun and use it to seduce Wu Yun. It's simply wonderful. Di Biming glanced at her indifferently. This little rascal was very easy to satisfy, and it had to be said that he was somewhat, not annoying. Shui Wuji was very cooperative. He said enviously, "Little sister Jiu, this little Wu Yun of yours is really not bad. Next time, cut some more and give it to me." Shui Wuji felt that if Ruier saw this little Wu Yun, he would definitely like it very much. Perhaps that unfaithful woman would be more enthusiastic towards him. Before Yun Chujio could reply, she heard a certain cold voice saying, "If you want to chop me off yourself. Little Jiu, come and cultivate. Don't get involved with these useless things." He Xinjiu made a face at Di Biming's back and followed a certain someone into the cabin slowly. As for the little Wu Yun, He Xinjiu scattered it. After all, she still needed it to absorb the power of lightning. If it was stored in her storage ring, there would be no way to collect it. He Xinjiu had been suppressed by a certain being and obediently cultivated for a few days. When she was about to reach the Li Hate Palace's territory, the originally clear skies suddenly darkened. He Xinjiu immediately became excited. "Prince Charming, that bastard that wants to be abused is here. Let's see how he'll anger it this time. This time, even if you take a flying spirit tool to walk the lightning, don't go too far. Otherwise, you'll accidentally enter another territory, understand?" Di Biming said coldly, but his tone was more concerned. A certain venerable felt that even if he had sealed his memories, he would still be worried about this little rascal, let alone the 7 emotions and 6 desires. "Okay," He Xinjiu answered perfunctorily. She rushed out of the cabin with a howl, carried little Wu Yun, and sat on the chopping board, landing on the ground. He Xinjiu released little Wu Yun, and then said to Wu Yun in the sky, "Hey, my dear little Wu Yun, look at what is floating above my head." Seeing the little dark cloud floating above He Xinjia's head, Wu Yun felt as if his heart was going to explode. Fuck! Isn't that its cloud wings? Why did it fly without its command? And it seemed to have intelligence. What the fuck? Didn't they say that only the cloud cores could cultivate and control the cloud wings? Then what the hell was down there? Xiao Yun Yun, am really grateful to you. First of all, without you working so hard and coming all the way here to attack me, I wouldn't have been able to level up and break through. Second of all, you even took the initiative to give me such a cute little Wu Yun. I'm really grateful to your ancestors. He Xinjiu said in anger. Wu Yun was so angry that he almost passed out. What did she mean by taking advantage of her and still acting like a good girl? This stinky girl was. She was really angered to death. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.